A well-trained, efficient service department is an essential part of every Chevrolet dealership. And the core of an efficient service department is a team of highly skilled and productive service technicians. But how should dealership management go about assembling a first-rate service department? And once qualified service technicians have been hired, what method should management use to keep them at a dealership? These two critical functions, finding and keeping qualified technicians, are the main topics of this program as Pro Service Skills presents Technician Recruiting and Retention. Recruiting and retaining qualified service technicians. Those are very important jobs at any dealership. Hi, I'm Les Waldman, owner of Hometown Chevrolet. Here at my dealership, we take special care to find and then keep good service technicians. I realized long ago that if we didn't do this, then we're the ones who lose in terms of money, time spent training, and customer satisfaction. And these are all losses that we just can't afford. Some time ago, a research organization conducted a nationwide survey to determine the level of service customer satisfaction. The survey involved consumer groups and automobile dealerships. It concluded that the automobile service industry is suffering a shortage of qualified technicians, resulting in higher than acceptable levels of customer dissatisfaction with service department work. To help correct these conditions, the report suggests that new people must be attracted to the field. Technician training must be increased, and technician image and pay systems must be evaluated if dealerships are to meet customer demands for top quality repair services. Fortunately, we learned that by using a structured technician recruiting and retention process, and by following guidelines in our service supremacy components, we were able to build a successful, profitable service operation. Although recruiting and retention are interrelated, at Hometown we initially view them as being two separate procedures. Following our recruiting steps, for example, first, we define the position to be filled. Second, we define the sources of applicants. Third, we locate applicants. And fourth, we interview and hire. Similarly, our technician retention factors fall into 6 overall areas. To keep technicians on our service team, we provide them with competitive pay and benefits and effective incentive plans. We maintain a clean, well-equipped shop, offer technicians the opportunity to develop careers through continuing technical education, provide them with career opportunities, and we maintain an atmosphere of self-esteem in the shop. The first part of this program will take an in-depth look at technician recruiting, while the second part will cover technician retention factors. Along the way, we'll see how recruiting and retention are tied together.
What are you doing, Charlie? I thought you were happy here.
Hi, Ray. I'm just looking, that's all. I see we're advertising for a new technician. I guess we could use the extra help.
You're telling me. Entry-level position, lube work. Hey, look at this. Join the #1 team.
Oh, that's us, all right. You know, I wonder if John over at Cut Rate Motors knows about this. A while back, he was telling me he was thinking about looking for work someplace else.
Can't say I blame him. That place is a wreck. It's dirty and disorganized.
Yeah.
They haven't got a decent place to eat lunch in.
Yeah, and he told me they don't have any benefits or security either. You know, John's a pretty smart guy. He knows what he's doing. This may be just what he's looking for.
In general work, sure he knows what he's doing. But does he understand Chevy products? You know, it would cost this place to train him.
Oh, yeah, but we'd get it back. Now, John knows his basics. He learned them in the Army. If he's willing to come on as an apprentice, that'll be just fine. I mean, take a look at the ad. We're not looking for anyone who's certified in lots of different areas. Now, John will learn if we send him through some training courses. And until then, he can learn by working with us.
Yeah, true enough. Why don't you go tell the boss about him? He'd probably like to talk to John.
You know, I think I'll try and get a hold of him before my break is over. We'll see you later, Ray.
Charlie and Ray's conversation raises several interesting questions regarding technician recruiting. For example, what's the most effective way to recruit new technicians? Well-written newspaper ads are certainly one of the best ways, and later we'll take a closer look at how good ads are written. But are other technicians also a good source of information? And are there also still other sources? A minute ago I said that here at Hometown we have 4 overall recruiting steps. Now let's take a closer look at how they fit into our recruiting process. First, you'll recall we define the position to be filled. This step consists of several sub-steps, the first being to define the duties of the new technician. We mention what the technician will be doing on the job, be it our evaluation for engine overhauls, front-end work, lube work, general technician, or whatever. We found that a well-written position description is an invaluable aid in defining the duties of a new technician. And in addition to helping us establish a basis for what a new technician's duties will be, position descriptions help our employees understand their positions and duties and provide our management and our employees with a means of evaluating performance on the job. Next, we determine necessary qualifications for the technician. For example, in some states, the applicant must have state and NIASE certification. And obviously, if we're looking for an experienced technician, previous dealership work experience, technical school background, or other similar training is necessary. We also make sure the qualifications we're looking for are compatible with what the technician's duties will be. Then we determine pay and benefits for the position. They should correspond with the technician's duties and qualifications, and we make sure they're competitive to draw the top quality people that we need. Then we determine training and advancement opportunities that will be offered to the new technician. This step is very important if the position is to be presented as a career opportunity and not simply as a job. Having defined the position to be filled, we now define the sources, deciding where we can find the kind of people we want to fill our position. When we define the sources, the position to be filled often determines the source we use. We've discovered that people who have attended good automotive vocational schools make excellent prospects for hiring when looking for people with a basic understanding of automotive service. Then the additional training we provide makes them specialists in Chevrolet products. People who have completed recognized apprenticeship programs also make good candidates for hiring as service technicians, as do people who have completed automotive vocational programs in high schools, junior colleges, or colleges, and people who have attended technical military training programs. Technicians with previous GM experience also make excellent candidates for hiring. With this information, we've reached the point where we put our position and sources definitions together to locate applicants for our service technician opening. In doing this, we design our recruiting program to attract qualified, career-minded people and not people who are simply looking for short-term employment. We use the reputation of Chevrolet, Chevrolet products, and our dealership to attract these preferred candidates. We found our newspaper ads are one of the best ways to get applicants to come to our dealership. Weekend newspapers especially, with their large circulations, are an excellent way to let technicians know we've got an opening. But before we place ads in newspapers, first we post job openings in our service department to let our technicians know we're looking for new people. This makes potential information sources of our employees and also gives them opportunities to apply for positions allowing them to advance their careers. But now, let's take a look at how we go about writing good newspaper ads. We've learned that writing an effective ad means doing two things. The first is getting the technician's attention, letting them know what we're offering. The second is telling the technicians what we want in return from them. Now, let's see how these steps take shape in a well-written newspaper ad. This ad, for example, catches readers' attention by first requesting top-notch automobile technicians and then by mentioning top pay, all in big, bold type. Then the ad specifically states the benefits offered to the technician who qualifies for the position. All the hours you want, uniforms, health insurance plan, paid vacation and sick days, clean, organized shop. All of these benefits are pluses that applicants should be aware of. If they aren't specifically mentioned, people often assume the negative and think the dealership simply isn't offering such programs. At Hometown, before we start writing an ad, we take a minute to assess our benefits, and then we mention them right up front in the ad. This lets people know we're offering a first-rate position, the kind of position it takes to attract first-rate people. Finally, the ad tells applicants what the dealership wants: reliable NIASE and/or state-certified individuals with dealership experience and a full set of tools. And then it even tells them why the dealership is hiring new technicians, to help us with our increasing sales volume. This helps attract career-minded technicians by letting them know the dealership is growing and that once hired, there will probably be job stability and opportunities for advancement. Job stability, incidentally, attracts good technicians and helps build a top-quality service department, which helps make loyal customers. If we're looking for a really fast applicant response, we use radio commercials, usually about a 15-second spot during early morning or evening hours. Here, we quickly state the job we're offering and the kind of person we're looking for, and give our switchboard telephone number for listener response. In addition to locating applicants through newspaper ads and radio commercials, we check with reliable technicians in our shop to see if they can recommend anyone. We also ask other technicians we know to see if they'd like to come to work for us. This often turns up some very good prospects, and even if they aren't interested, they can often suggest someone who is. Finally, checking with school placement services and participating in school career days are excellent ways to find people who are ready to begin building careers in the working world. We check with placement services at colleges or technical schools that have accredited automotive technical programs. These programs often turn out people who are perfect for entry-level positions and who can gain proficiency and certification in additional areas as time goes by. We participate in school career days to let young people who will soon be out looking for jobs know that they can build a career in our service department. This way we can tell interested students firsthand about the kinds of careers we offer our service technicians. This brings us to the fourth phase of our recruiting process, the phase where we interview and hire. At this point, we've defined our job, defined our sources, and located applicants for the position. To use our time most effectively, we found it's best to collect applications, review them, and then set up interviews. Our service manager hands out and collects applications to get first impressions of the applicants. Then we review the applications we receive and interview only those technicians who meet our standards and requirements. We've developed our own interviewing and hiring policies using service supremacy information as guidelines. This is when we put our techniques to work and select the technician we think will best fit our job description and dealership requirements. Now, refer to the workbook for a review covering technician recruiting. Read Section 1 and answer the questions following the section to see if you know the material. Then, to continue this program, press 1 on the touchpad. Recruiting top-quality technicians leads naturally to the second major portion of this program, technician retention, keeping good technicians on the team once we've hired them. Industry studies show that the technician retention problem has grown substantially in recent years, and that service technician turnover is currently running at higher than acceptable levels. Keeping service technician turnover under control is important to dealerships in several ways: in developing the kind of professional reputation that attracts and keeps customers, in maintaining a high level of customer satisfaction, and in controlling the high cost of turnover stemming from the expense of lost productive service time and the cost of recruiting and training new technicians. But what causes dealerships to lose technicians? Charlie and Ray hinted at shop conditions and benefits, but could there be other reasons? At Hometown, we view technician turnover as an effective measure of our success or failure in recruiting the right people and then retaining them by providing the right benefits, pay, and working conditions. There are several factors that contribute to reducing technician turnover rates. One factor is providing continuing education. As automotive technology becomes more complex, technicians must make a continual effort to keep their skills current with the changes. At Hometown, we provide our technicians with opportunities to participate in ongoing training programs at the GM Training Center. And we also provide in-house training using ProTech materials. Providing job stability is another factor in reducing turnover. Dealerships often lose technicians to factories or to independent garages or mass merchandisers. Is a major retention factor. If service technicians first technicians a sense of economic closer look at what makes up a very important retention factor. But to keep service technicians, a very good reason for their friend to leave the other dealership was his current lack of benefits and security. Our competitive pay and benefits plan consists of equitable pay, competitive with other dealerships and industries in the area, medical and life insurance, paid sick leave, paid vacations and holidays, and a retirement program. We found that providing technicians and their families with security and protection in those areas where a weekly paycheck alone isn't adequate is a major part of developing and keeping their loyalty and professional services. Incentive plans are another way we reward our best technicians. The incentives are money or awards for top performance in areas such as employee attendance, keeping a clean workstation, personal appearance, specific technical training such as the Chevrolet Certified Technician Program and the annual Certified Technician exams, and productivity. These are just a few examples of incentive standards that work for us. There are many others. They all serve to reduce service comebacks and to increase customer satisfaction, technician productivity, and repeat and referral business. A clean, well-equipped shop and a well-organized working area play a major role in keeping good people at our dealership. To boost employee morale, we make sure our shop is a clean, pleasant place to work. And we have an efficient dispatch area that ensures a steady flow of work to our technicians. Other qualities of a well-equipped shop are mentioned in your reference book. We provide our service technicians with continuing technical education, which is the first step in following a career development plan. Our service manager holds regular training sessions using current training materials and discusses solutions to specific technical problems. We make sure our technicians attend programs at GM training centers, which are either in their position descriptions or in areas that will prepare them for professional advancement. And we also pay our technicians for attending these programs. This plan also keeps our service personnel up to date on new procedures and product changes that impact service. We cross-train our technicians to make sure they have a minimum of downtime, and also to ensure that customers get their vehicles repaired on a timely basis. We provide our service personnel with career opportunities, making it clear to them that they can build a professional career here at Hometown Chevrolet. Career opportunities go hand in hand with continuing technical education and follow specific career development plans by which technicians can advance along career paths. We use structured and frequent performance evaluations with objectives to give technicians feedback on their progress and on areas that need improvement. All of the performance evaluators that lead to promotions via career development plans are based on position descriptions developed here at Hometown. These are the same descriptions we referred to when we were recruiting technicians. A position description must be a complete, realistic statement of an employee's area of responsibility and must be clearly understandable to both management and employees. When writing position descriptions, we consult with employees presently doing each job to make sure we both have the same understanding of what is being done and what should be done. We also discuss descriptions of new positions with our employees and familiarize new employees with their position descriptions. After we've established in our position descriptions exactly what job performance is expected from each of our employees, we can then convert these requirements to performance objectives and use those objectives in structured employee performance evaluations. By evaluating our service technicians against position description requirements, both technicians and service managers have the same understanding of the performance that is being evaluated. For example, here's how we'd establish performance objectives for a brake specialist based on the position description shown here. First, the overall objective of the description requires that the brake specialist knows how to service manual and power brakes. Therefore, the brake specialist's overall performance objective, the major task he must be able to perform, is to be able to service manual and power brakes. This is an example of an overall objective a technician must meet if he is to be a brake specialist. This position description also requires that the brake specialist is experienced in all major and minor repairs and adjustments of the brake system, relining brake shoes, resurfacing drums, servicing master and wheel cylinders. The corresponding performance objectives, in turn, are to be able to first reline brake shoes, second, resurface drums, third, service master cylinders, and fourth, service wheel cylinders. These objectives are measurable. That is, we can determine whether or not a technician is meeting them. And by doing this, we can determine whether the technician is meeting the requirements of the position description. The Chevrolet Consumer Relations Guide explains our overall dealership objective of total customer satisfaction. We realize that providing performance objectives for service staff position descriptions is a part of meeting our overall objectives. By providing all of these retention factors, we've taken a long step toward establishing an atmosphere of self-esteem in our service department. But this isn't the end, not by a long shot. We realize that service technicians are highly trained craftsmen who spend a great deal of time, money, and effort keeping up with new technology and service developments. Through positive management attitudes, we encourage our service staff to do their best work. It makes them want to stay at Hometown Chevrolet because they realize we appreciate and respect their professional skills and the good work they do. Finally, we tie our technician recruiting and retention programs together with a very old and simple policy: honesty. We make sure we keep our recruitment promises after we hire a technician. I can pretty much summarize our technician retention policies in these three brief statements. First, we offer adequate and competitive pay and benefits, making sure what we're offering is competitive in our area. Second, we build technicians' self-esteem by letting them know they're important to the dealership, both as professionals and as people, and by offering them the chance to build careers here at Hometown Chevrolet. And our third policy is simple honesty. We keep our promises. In a nutshell, that's all there is to it. Now, I've talked a lot about how we put together programs to recruit and retain service technicians. And just by listening to it, it may sound like we developed these programs overnight. But actually, we realized that implementing effective recruiting and retention programs wasn't something we should go about doing in a haphazard way. So we took our time and we did it properly. We planned our programs carefully, referring to Chevrolet's Service Supremacy series for guidance whenever we needed additional information. For example, Service Supremacy Component 9 on service management explains what to include in an effective service department position description, while Service Supremacy Component 11, Personnel Hiring and Orientation, offers ideas regarding recruitment and hiring of personnel and discusses uses of service department position descriptions. And Service Supremacy Component 21, Motivation, offers ideas for pay, insurance, retirement, vacation, and other employee plans that contribute to recruiting and retaining good people. To locate any service supremacy topics quickly and easily, simply refer to your Service Supremacy Index. Also, your local zone office will be happy to supply information in the referenced service supremacy components. At Hometown Chevrolet, we're proud of our recruiting techniques and technician retention record. We use these proven procedures, and the payoff is a noticeable improvement all the way around, from qualified technicians who want to stay with us, to repeat customers who enjoy doing business with us, to additional profit potentials resulting from reduced technician turnover rates. These are results that make our efforts worthwhile. Now, refer to the workbook for a review. Read section and answer the questions following the section. I'm Les Waldman, owner of Hometown Chevrolet. An after-hours visit like this one makes me realize the importance of my employees. Not long ago, this service area was a beehive of activity. Now it's just concrete, girders, and equipment. It takes good employees to give life and vitality to a dealership. Here at Hometown, we've built a successful business with the help of highly motivated employees. And now, Pro Service Skills presents Service Employee Motivation Techniques. A few months ago at one of our service management meetings, I presented a proposal to begin an employee motivation program at Hometown. Everyone was interested in the idea, but wanted to know more about it. For example, take our service manager, Bill Lewis.
I like the idea of a motivation program, Les. If it'll help our service operations, I'm for it. But what are the specific benefits?
There are three major benefits of a motivation program, Bill. Let me briefly highlight them. Number one is increased productivity. Employees who are positively motivated by their jobs generally miss fewer days, come to work on time, and work harder. Both the employees and hometown are rewarded from increased profits. Number two is greater employee satisfaction and self-esteem. Workers who receive recognition and rewards for their achievements have a good feeling about themselves, their jobs, and hometown. They'll develop a strong loyalty to the dealership and tend to be less likely to leave for a new job. Number three is improved customer satisfaction. Highly motivated employees do better work, which means fewer comebacks and faster service. I'm sure I don't have to tell you about the importance of customer satisfaction. Add up these benefits. 1, increased productivity. 2, greater employee satisfaction and self-esteem. And 3, improved customer satisfaction. And you've got the ingredients for a successful service operation.
Les, all of this sounds almost too good to be true. Exactly what does a motivation program consist of, and how does it work?
Well, that's how it started. Of course, before I met with my service management team, I did some research so I could answer their questions. Let me show you where I found most of the answers. The personnel motivation component, number 21 of the Service Supremacy Library, provides nearly 160 pages of valuable information. Everything from motivational theory to practical ideas on how to implement a program. It also shows sources of additional information, such as these two booklets, which you can obtain from the General Motors Management and Organization Development Department. For further details about service supremacy or motivation programs, contact your zone office. Other sources of information are your local library, college, or continuing education class. I found them very helpful. After researching the subject, I was able to put together an employee motivation program with the help of my service management team. And I was able to answer most of their questions, like the one from my service manager, Bill Lewis. How does a motivation program work? I told him that there is one key idea to remember. An effective motivation program is defined as one that channels or modifies employee behavior. It's important to note that motivation does not fundamentally change the person, only his behavior is affected. Motivation is simply an intangible force within people that causes them to behave in certain ways. Your job as a manager is to stimulate this force and direct the employee's behavior in the desired way. It's the most consistent challenge that any manager faces because different factors motivate different employees. It's often difficult to find just the right combination. There is no right way to solve this dilemma, but there are some basic principles of motivation that serve as excellent guidelines. First, I want you to recognize 3 factors that influence employee behavior. They are satisfiers, motivators, and dissatisfiers. Satisfiers produce minimal job satisfaction. Think of them as minor league motivators. They include such things as a good place to work, good people to work for, and a satisfactory exchange of benefits, including money, for the work performed. Motivators have greater appeal and stimulate high levels of job productivity. These factors include growth, achievement, responsibility, and recognition. Dissatisfiers represent another set of factors that affect an employee's view of his job. They include the lack of effective supervision, clear policies and procedures, job status, good working conditions, and job security. Their absence will cause employee dissatisfaction. Their presence, however, won't necessarily give job satisfaction. As you can see, a number of factors affect employee behavior. It's important to evaluate the dealership to eliminate dissatisfiers and, of course, promote satisfiers and motivators. Another way to express these items is to think of them as needs. Everyone has needs. For some, it's being in on things or being appreciated. For others, it's the chance to grow in their jobs and achieve. Or it simply might be recognition. Employees seek to meet these needs in many ways. The key to motivation is identifying employee needs.
That sounds like a tall order. Why is it so important?
Employee needs are important because the next step in the motivation process is to translate them into goals. Goals generate the motivation for the employees to satisfy their needs. Think of goals as stimulating that motivative force which causes employees to modify their behavior in the desired manner.
I see that goals are closely linked with needs, but what kind of goals are we talking about?
Goals that are adequate in terms of benefits to the employee, attainable considering the abilities of the person, and acceptable to the worker in terms of the time and effort required.
That makes sense, but can you give me a practical example?
Suppose you have a technician who has talent, but never seems to fully apply himself. Because of his potential, you definitely ought to give him special attention. Let's further assume that you discover that he needs recognition. Remember, this is a strong motivator. Encourage him to set a goal, like perhaps an award for Technician of the Month. When setting a goal, be sure both you and the employee clearly understand the goal, so he knows what he is working toward. Service Supremacy Component 21 describes a typical set of rules and awards for establishing a successful program. The technician will likely achieve his goal because he finds the recognition adequate for his needs. It is attainable because he has the skills to reach the goal. Always be sure the goal is realistic, otherwise the employee may become discouraged. And finally, the goal is acceptable because the technician is willing to work harder to obtain the recognition. Effective motivation programs must also provide feedback and employee evaluation procedures to let people know how they are doing. Feedback, to be effective, must be positive, frequent, expected, specific, and understood. This means that the feedback must positively reinforce a good performance. And it must be given frequently because employees expect to be complimented for good work. Finally, all communications should be in specific terms so they are clearly understood. Employees like to feel important, regardless of how modest their jobs may be. They must also see how their task relates to personal goals and the dealership service operation. Verbal acknowledgments provide reassurances that employees are doing the right thing or moving in the right direction. Give encouragement for any improvement in behavior. A simple, "nice job," lets them know their contribution is valued. Periodically, employees should receive a formal review of their progress. Let the person know exactly where he stands. Don't assume that all technicians realize when they're doing okay. A performance evaluation form, such as this one, is useful. It allows you to give written and precise comments about an employee's performance. A motivation program must also provide rewards that are part of a positive consequence system. This simply means making it more rewarding for an employee to do a job the right way instead of incorrectly. For example, the employee who wanted to be Technician of the Month should only receive this award if he fulfills all of the requirements. Rewards must be the result of positive job performance. If you give rewards when they aren't deserved, they'll lose their value. And too much of a reward is almost as bad as none at all. Rewarding poor performance only encourages mediocrity. A pat on the back administered by the right person at the right time can make all the difference in the world between an average and excellent employee. Now, let's briefly recap the major points we've covered so far. First, we learned that a motivation program channels or modifies employee behavior to improve the level of job performance. 3 types of factors influence behavior. We call them satisfiers, motivators, and dissatisfiers. It's important to determine employee needs because they can be used to establish goals and stimulate the motivative force in employees. The program must provide feedback and employee evaluation and give rewards. Rewards that are the result of a positive performance. Let's pause now and review these items in greater detail. Read section 1 of your reference book, then answer the questions for that section. To continue this program, press 1 on the touchpad. The first part of this program highlighted the basic information a dealership should consider before starting a motivation program. In the second half, I'm going to explain some specific steps you should think about when implementing a motivation plan. Again, I'll draw on my experiences at Hometown Chevrolet. The first step is to plan a special meeting to announce the motivation program. Publicize the meeting with an announcement, such as a flyer or newsletter that briefly explains the purpose, goals, and benefits. I found the service supremacy section on holding an effective motivation meeting very helpful in setting up my meeting. I suggest you give it a try. It contains many helpful hints. The motivation meeting should establish a direction for the program and build enthusiasm. The following points are critical. At Hometown Chevrolet's motivation meeting, I stressed the fact that management was 100% involved and committed to the program. As one example of this, I required my complete management team to attend. It's also important to describe the benefits of the program for both the employees and the dealership. You must also stress the importance of goals, not only for each individual, but for the dealership as well. The goals must be understood by everyone for a motivation program to be successful. Your dealership goals might be anything from improving customer satisfaction to increasing service sales, reducing comebacks, and reducing sublet labor if your employees can do the work. Be sure to tell your employees what you're trying to achieve. Before an employee will accept and work toward any goal, be it his or the dealership's, the employee must be convinced that 2 levels of management are behind the program. Thus, the immediate supervisor, such as the shop foreman or service manager, and upper management, such as the dealer principal, must be actively involved in the motivation program. Open communication between management and service employees will establish a feeling of trust for your commitment to the program. Make sure your management doors are always open to your employees. Listen to them and be willing to communicate, and you'll eliminate one of the great obstacles to a successful motivation program. I made one final point at the motivation meeting, namely that there would be employee input, especially in the areas of setting goals and establishing incentives. This gets people involved and gives them a feeling of being in on things. Our next step at Hometown was to schedule individual meetings with each employee. My managers talked to them about their personal needs and ambitions, established some goals, and discussed the types of incentives and rewards that appealed to them. We recorded the information from these meetings to give us an idea of the final form of our motivation program. If your experience is like ours, you'll find that some employees may not know or be able to describe their needs in specific terms, which makes it difficult to establish realistic goals. So how do you determine their inner needs? One fairly reliable technique is observation. Be on the lookout for traits that are common in certain types of people, which generally define their needs. Here are a few I'm sure you'll recognize. Security is the #1 need of many employees. They follow shop rules rigorously and stick to established routines and the status quo. They are overly cautious, guarded, and generally like to be told exactly what to do. Long-term employment and pleasant, predictable working conditions are important to these employees. Social acceptance is another common need. These types are always friendly, outgoing, and want to please everybody from the car porter to the dealer principal. They tend to have trouble making decisions, but will do most anything for a compliment. The need for self-esteem and prestige causes many employees to toot their horns and take center stage at every opportunity. They're strong competitors who don't like to be defeated. When it occurs, they claim bad luck rather than admit shortcomings. They're impressed by power and position and generally seek recognition, respect, and status. Independent types come in 2 varieties. Both prefer to control their own destiny. One is argumentative and generally defiant. The other is more self-confident, takes criticism, and is always eager to learn. Neither makes a good supervisor, but both like the challenge of the toughest jobs. Finally, we have the types who are interested in personal growth. They are curious and continually seek to increase their knowledge and abilities. They are willing to take risks, are bored by routine jobs, and seek promotions. There are, of course, many other types, so be observant, and you'll find it easier to determine employee needs and goals. During the employee interviews, we also promotional opportunities, service department standards, job descriptions and performance standards, customer relations responsibilities, and performance review policies and procedures. After interviewing our employees, the next step was to firm up our motivation program plans. We found it helpful to establish both short-term and long-term goals for the dealership as well as for each employee. Short-term goals are especially important because they provide an opportunity to quickly experience success, and they virtually assure that employee effort is rewarded. To guard against failure and a what's the use attitude, break goals into small units to promote achievement and be sure to reward employees promptly. Our final step was to develop an employee newsletter that outlined our complete motivation program. It described how employees could participate and be rewarded based on their individual needs and goals. Now, let's recap the key steps to implement a motivation program. First, plan and announce the motivation meeting for employees and management. Second, demonstrate management commitment to the program. Third, involve employees in planning the program. Fourth, interview employees to determine their individual needs and ambitions. Fifth, establish goals, both short-term and long-term, for employees and the dealership. Sixth, distribute copies of the motivation plan to all employees. The Chevrolet Certified Technician Program is also an important part of our motivation plan. At Hometown, we encourage our people to read the Sales and Service edition of Pro Journal. The journal has the latest product information and listings of Chevrolet service bulletins and ProTech releases that technicians can study to achieve certification. That about covers the key points for starting a motivation program, but there's still an important question to be answered. Does it work? Well, take the case of Jim Myers. You wouldn't guess it, but he used to be a chronic complainer around the lunchroom. He was one of those technicians who seemed to have more ability than he showed. Something was bothering him. We finally got him to tell us the problem when we initiated our motivation program. He felt that he had been overlooked for raises and promotion to master technician. Jim's test scores on Chevrolet Certified Technician exams had always qualified him as a certified technician. On his last annual test, he scored high enough to be rated as a master technician. Our service manager explained that regardless of his experience and rating as a Chevrolet Certified Master Technician, Hometown required that to be promoted to Master Technician, he must be fully NIASE certified in all areas. He hadn't overlooked Jim, he had simply overlooked a very important rule. Being a sharp guy, it didn't take him long to see the light. He hit the books in all his spare time, even on his lunch hour, passed the tests with flying colors. And now he wears his NIASE patch, and he is a master technician at a nice increase in pay. Our motivation program didn't change Jim all that much. He still likes to complain, usually good-naturedly. He did change his behavior pattern, however. Jim now performs more kinds of mechanical work more efficiently. He's also learned to take on additional responsibilities, like helping our less experienced technicians check their work to ensure quality service. Hometown Chevrolet has experienced many success stories like Jim Myers. They demonstrate that applying the principles of motivation produces a commitment in our employees to do their best. Now, let's pause again for another review. Read Section 2, then answer the questions. To continue this program, press 1 on the touchpad. Our decision to start a motivation program was based on our commitment to satisfy our customers by improved efficiency, service quality, and customer contact. Our motivation program was designed with these goals in mind. The results to date have been most gratifying. I'm sure you can enjoy similar results by following the specific, practical how-to-do-it guidelines for implementing a motivation program described in this video disc and companion workbook. If you need further assistance or information from the service supremacy components, just contact your local zone office.